slinging my banging my swinging my coup. DeVille, scoop, DeVille.
Welcome, MV family. This is our Thursday night Voice of the People, where your voice matters. Tonight is all about the people, where we discuss your comments, post, and answer any questions that you may have for us on the panel. But before we get started, we want to remind you, please click like and share all our social media and go over to our YouTube page and subscribe. Also, click the bell so you can get notification when we have new content. Now, it's about the people. Last night we had a heated discussion. We had a glorious debate. Responded and they gave us some comments and they had some opinions. So we're a little bit deeper into where we were yesterday, listening to you about birth control and abortion. So we're going to really get into it. We're going to hit our first comment and then we're going to get
Let go.
our first comment sets it off. Is birth Look at the state of the world today. Hatred is running rapid and rights are being taken away from the common man. There's diseases that seem not to have cures. So why would it not be smart to get another life into this madness?
This madness.
This madness.
Because children are a blessing from God.
I completely agree with that statement. And I don't think I've ever thought birth control was a bad thing. I mean, I think it just depends on the person, like anything else. Even certain religions, you know, I grew up Catholic. I have 497 cousins. But it's not because my family thinks birth control is bad. It's because for religious purposes, it's just their beliefs.
Well, I'll tell you, my thought is, when you think about birth control, what age should you start your children? Because I know some people that start their young ones on birth control at 12.
Right.
So what age? So bad to me may be the reason why you're using it and the age.
Yeah. I think it kind of differs. I know when I was younger, they wanted to put me on birth control at 13 because I have reproductive issues. So birth control takes care of a lot of that, or it's supposed to. So, you know, I know my parents kind of had an issue with that, but we went ahead and did it because it was for health purposes. We did the same thing with my daughter at 14 for the exact same reason. So again, I think it just kind of depends on the situation,
Yes.
on the parent. But if my daughter at 16 would come to me and ask to be on birth control, my answer would be 100% yes.
No, I got another take on that.
Okay.
My biggest thing is I want to look at the fact of how, when we talk about the chemicals that have to do with birth control. So there are different forms of birth control. But if you're not telling me that it's going to protect the female, like if she do decide to have kids later, that her body hasn't been affected and she becomes sterile for some reason, is this intentional or not? So my biggest thing is I could see it being okay if they can guarantee that it doesn't harm the young lady.
Yes, in the future.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like where you went with that too. That the side effects sometimes. So even though, you know, you are going that angle, the side effects just like right now, today, that some women have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'll say like one that I know I hear students talk about all the time, gaining weight.
Weight gain, absolutely.
You know, so now they have to deal with a whole nother depression and low self-esteem based on that. So, you know, when you say it's good or bad, you know.
I think it's crazy too, because birth control has come a long way. I mean, they used to have the little packets where you had to like push the little pills out, but now they're putting implants in your arm.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, because really, how many people can remember to take a pill every single day? And the only way to even make it effective up to its percentage that it's supposed to be effective is to actually take it the same time every day. So now with the shots, with the IUD, with the literally a chip in your arm, I mean, it's just, it's crazy
and
how far we've come.
But see, and so Jill, with that, then I believe that lingers in the system for up to 10 years. So decide, you know, 5 years from now, I do want to have a child. So back to what James is saying, then who knows what the outcome could be as far as birth defects.
Can we go into conspiracy theory, man? Let me. So let's
You know
just
you like
say,
that.
you really don't know what's being put in you.
Either way.
Either way, right?
Right.
So let's just say, man, we know technology is so far advanced that everything could be intentionally done to do what? Affect certain things
Right. Certain
intentionally,
people,
right?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Mindset, mental
Absolutely.
stability, diminishing of the mind,
Right.
causing so many other issues in so many other communities intentionally.
Right.
So reality is, man, is it really safe? Is it really good?
Well, before we move on, I'm just going to hit this point because I don't think we hit the end of it. Looking at the world today, there's so much going on. If you choose not to bring a life into this chaos or whatever you want to call it, that's your choice. This world is not getting better. It's really not getting better. But
Yeah.
if you consciously think that it's not right to bring a life in, then
That's your choice.
that's your choice.
One more point before we move on, man.
Yeah.
When was it good for black folk?
When good.
For black folk. Let's just be real.
Skip days.
You know what I'm saying? Slavery
You know-
to Jim Crow to
Yes.
system.
Appreciate
So,
days.
so yeah, it
Yeah.
depends. Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
conversation.
I was getting ready to say, so that person, whoever sent that comment, they might want to look at the Margaret, I believe it's Garner.
Singer.
No, not Margaret Singer. I was talking about her bad last night. Got in trouble. I'm talking about Margaret Garner, that was a slave back in the day who killed her daughter.
Right. So
Her-
she wouldn't have to be.
That's right. So she killed her newborn daughter and
Yeah, so
tried to
she-
commit suicide
So she wouldn't have to.
because she didn't want her to live under those conditions
Right.
of being sexually abused, and all that other stuff that is
Yeah.
connected to slavery. So
So
you
look,
know, so that's kind of like what that comment
yeah,
reminds me
yeah.
of.
Good question. Good comment.
Yes, great
Now,
comment.
now we're gonna
Thank
go.
Let's go get it.
As far as the abortion law, the changes that are, excuse me, as far as abortion law, the chances of it being thrown out are good. We will not know until October. The chances are that it will, thank you, the chances are that it will stay with devastating consequences for women and children. The influx of abortions in other states, Louisiana, which is parentheses, will rise. I find it funny that the state that doesn't want to be told what to do in their personal lives is okay with old white men forcing them to have kids.
Talking about big Texas. They
Texas-
doing it big right now.
Texas is in the news quite a
Yeah.
bit right now.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, let's look at that. As a previous are being stripped away from the common man, and choices. Texas is what we talked about, the new abortion laws and everything that's in Texas. But the original abortion fight started in Texas, if I'm correct.
The Roe
Correct.
versus Wade.
Roe versus Wade.
Was that right in
Yeah,
right in
1973.
Texas.
Yes, Texas. So, I mean, is it right for lawmakers to regulate what's going on with bodies?
Of
If we
course
gonna
not.
start abortion, we're still talking
Yeah.
about the mask issues and all that, but we're going to focus on abortion because we know one thing can snowball to something else, but we're going to keep it on the abortion.
Didn't I tell you they need to leave OPP alone? Other problems.
Yes.
Yeah. But one thing when you talk about Roe versus Wade, you know, that I wanted to mention, because a lot of people don't talk about the fact that the woman, so there's really no Roe.
There's really no Roe.
And so Jane Roe, that was a fictitious person, but the actual person was Norma. I'm going to say her name, hopefully right, McCorvey.
Mm-hmm.
So this person actually never had the abortion, and she ended up giving her baby up for adoption, which is another alternative. And so by the time it was passed, she had already had the child. By the
Right.
time they passed that law, January 22nd
Right.
in 1973.
Mhm.
So, you know, all of that is almost like was in vain for her. And, you know, they didn't want to really talk about her or show this particular woman because they said she didn't represent the fight well enough.
Right.
She didn't
No.
speak well enough. So
No.
it's just a real, you know, interesting fight, I'll say,
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think too. We were just looking at some numbers, and you have to look at the overall picture, because all of these people, these lawmakers who make these laws, Are they pro-life, really? Because they don't really seem to care a whole lot about the life when it does enter outside of the womb. So now you're talking about childcare, you're talking about education, you're talking about the food stamps you don't want to give people, you're talking about the free lunches you're taking away because it spoils children. You're talking about the 29,927 children in Texas in 2019 at the end of the year who were in the foster care system, and the 3,400 children right now who are waiting to be adopted prior to what Texas just did. So you really have to look at the overall picture, and is it even about abortion? Is it about abortion, or is there something bigger like there always is?
Well, James is going to be the conspiracy theorist, but this is a conspiracy that's floating around. They say that the population, the white majority, is going to become the mass minority. So they're trying to
By
stop abortion. to be able-
2045.
Yeah, by 2045. That's a conspiracy theory. So that's one
You
of the
saying they're
reasons
trying to stop abortion to prevent what?
the decline in their population.
So they are
Okay.
associating abortion with eugenics.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that's a theory. That's a conspiracy
Yeah.
theory. I'm just saying that is what's being said of why these laws are being enacted.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
it makes
You
you
say-
think.
And
It
it's
makes
I was
you
waiting on
Interesting.
James to chime in since he was all about this conspiracy.
Well,
Well,
it's reality. Anytime the government's involved in anything, come on,
Okay.
there's an agenda. They're not involved because we're concerned about you having a baby or not. No, it's intentional. They have a plan.
Well, and I think too, what makes this so interesting is it's not just a ban on, making abortions accessible. Now they are literally having abortion vigilantes who are getting paid actual money to be involved in this or to snitch
To
on
snitch,
people.
I was gonna say.
So
That-
that's what makes this so interesting. Other than having, the most strict abortion laws, this whole other 10 grand citizen arrest in court is just flipping bizarre. To be
That's
quite
right, the
honest.
underground website.
Yeah, an Uber driver is going to get fined 10 grand for taking a woman and dropping her off to get an abortion. That is asinine.
Yeah,
That's right.
he wouldn't know. She wouldn't know.
Right, that is ridiculous.
This is good
Okay,
conversation. We
you
thank
got
you
some
for
more
your
comments,
we got
don't you?
some. Thank you for
What
your
we got
questions and
next? Where we
comments.
going next?
Thank
Yeah, let's see
you.
what we got next. Who got something good for us next? No birth control is 100% effective other than abstinence. We should be teaching our young people better morally. That's a
Better
mouthful.
Morally.
Abstinence.
Wouldn't that mean no birth control?
No birth control,
period?
no
Because
sex,
when you
no
send them
nothing.
out the door with the birth control or with the condom, are you saying it's okay? So you making provisions? when
No,
you shouldn't
that's
be
not
doing
always
that?
true.
Is that what
That's
it
not
means?
always true.
Okay, so let's get down to
You
the
gotta-
nitty gritty
you
of
gotta str-
abstinence because I want to know the definition.
And you said that with the condom, and I'm gonna make you laugh real quick. You got car insurance, not expecting to have an accident, right? It's just to have
It
just
just
in case.
yeah, slippery slope.
Very.
But-
Uh-huh.
But no, abstinence, that's something we really don't talk about as a community anymore. We
Mhm.
really don't believe in abstinence. And yes, we're preparing our children, for that just in case. But abstinence, let's think about that.
But are their parents preparing? I just, you guys have children preparing your
Oh, I
Children-
had girls. I was not going to have
I
that
don't
talk.
think you can prepare for
Yeah.
abstinence
abstinence.
in this
Yeah,
day.
no,
with
you
with
can't.
Oh,
technology.
You can't.
Come on.
Technology.
I
No.
think that time says a lot too, because when I was growing up, I'm going to be honest, and my parents were amazing. They've been married since they were, I don't even know, 40 some years, whatever. Very old school. I don't ever remember my mom talking to me about sex. I don't know if it wasn't a conversation that needed to be had back then, or I don't really know what the reason was. I've never really asked her. However, I talked to my 16-year-old daughter about sex a lot. So to know that my mother never mentioned it to me ever.
So
for
when you
whatever
talk about your
reason.
daughter,
Yes.
do you talk about abstinence too
We have
as a
we've
alternative to?
We've spoke about rape. There's so many things that you have to, when we say educate our children morally, if you don't educate them,
Yeah.
they are going to educate themselves, or somebody else
Somebody
is going
else.
to educate them. That is when Earl from Avila is 75 years old on Snapchat talking to my 16-year-old daughter looking like Justin flipping Bieber. And seriously, that you have to talk to your kids about that because it's so real. So if I don't educate her, if I don't speak to her, somebody's going to, because she's going to get curious and she's going to start digging.
And a lot of times she's going to be her age. I'm just saying she can hear it from somebody her age,
For
and it may
sure.
come out totally
Right.
different.
So can we get an example of your conversation?
So, I mean, I'm
The
probably
PG version.
I'm
PG
probably
version.
a helicopter mom. I mean, but I've shared my experience with my daughter. I let her know how long I waited and why I waited, even though I didn't have a parent telling me that I should. We've had conversations about, birth control. My daughter is on birth control because she has reproductive issues like I do. So, child on birth control, I had to let her know this is what's going on. Birth control by your parent doesn't give you permission to go have sex. But if she
Right.
does happen to have sex, I feel as a parent, it is my responsibility to make sure that she is protected. Period.
But why don't we talk about abstinence? Why are we not teaching? And I never got talked to about sex either. And I'm not going to tell y'all when I started
I
because
think
I was
this,
married when I got
this is
started.
extremely relevant to the point that was made or the post. The reason I say that is because how you teach your kids today is very important.
Right,
So she gave her example of how she taught her daughter, right?
right.
Let me tell you about mine with my sons.
Okay.
Okay.
You know
Reality.
about-
Reality.
sex.
Let's hear this.
Okay. Now with my boys, I would get condoms
Mm-hmm,
and I'll set a brown bag of condoms on the edge of the computer desk
mm-hmm,
in the den, right?
mm-hmm.
Where they
Females,
read.
females come to my house with my sons.
Mhm.
My sons had open reign, like
Oh.
literally.
Okay.
So
No.
What does that mean?
if somebody
Hold on,
allowed,
hold on, hold on,
if somebody allowed their daughter to come to my house with my boys,
Uh-huh.
it was open. My sons had the liberal right to utilize their condoms.
Okay.
Okay, so when you talk about absence, I think to me that's the best way to protect your kids. I don't encourage it,
Right.
but we know because of technology today, man, you can't hide it.
Right.
They're going to see it, and once they see it, they're going to get curious, and then
Yes.
curiosity is going to lead to what? So the best way is
Experimentation.
Okay,
is to prepare and make sure that they have
So-
the tools
Absolutely.
to protect
James,
themselves.
Mr. James.
Yes,
So you set the brown bag with the condoms
on the computer desk.
on the computer
On the
desk
corner.
where they do the studies.
Correct.
Did you put the book, the good book,
Which good
right
book?
next to the
Well,
bag?
when you go to the hotel, where the good book at?
It's right there too.
Is in the drawer
Drawer.
next.
But as far as your leadership and
Well,
what
my
you're-
leadership
what you're
is
teaching,
like
so-
this. So I've always been involved in church, but I never claimed perfection.
Right.
Right.
I think that's one of the biggest issues with the church today. So
Mhm.
many people try to act like they have walked the perfect life.
Yes.
Mhm.
My life has not been perfect.
Right.
You looking at a man that has 10 kids.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Real. So when
Look,
it came to
like, till
protection,
you said, till you know.
Diaz, how you say it in Spanish, Diaz. So what you're looking at is a man that when I was coming up, the protection wasn't there.
Right.
Nobody never had the conversation.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at a man that would show my son my check stub, be like, bro, look, your daddy just worked 60 hours and he only got $10.
Right. Gotcha.
So now I got to go to my second job.
See,
Mhm.
so
For
we
real.
should-
So,
For real,
So
though.
it's real.
I
It's
got
how you educate your kids to let them see. So now my son's got one kid,
Mhm.
or if they got two, but they married.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So they living a good life. They walking a good life.
Right.
They productive.
Yeah.
They saw their dad struggle, do 2 or 3 jobs trying to make ends meet.
Wow.
Mhm.
So reality is you live by example, but you protect your kids from
Mhm.
making the same mistakes you made.
Right.
Put
Right.
that check stub in that bag with them condoms.
Yeah. So when you talk about teaching abstinence, I mean, it's how you have to deal with the situation differently. She could talk to her daughter and tell her daughter her experience because her experience is different.
Mhm.
But my experience was 10 kids.
Right.
Right.
So
Okay.
then I do it. Condoms on the counter. Protect yourself at all costs. You ain't got no excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
know what's scary about that though today, and you talking about what's the conversation, the real conversation, like, and for me, I'm always ear hustling, as far as other people kids, and I get to hear some things. And so abstinence today, we kind of had a conversation, but just to keep it PG, I'll
Mhm.
say the abstinence is totally different than what abstinence was
Right.
back in the day. So they have a different form of abstinence, and mothers and fathers would be ready to break some legs if they knew what the abstinence looked like today.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm just saying, especially according to the definition from Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, look at the wording. We're going to go to our next comment. Let's see what we have right here with us. We're having good conversation. If you have something, leave us a comment. Great question. Birth control. Birth control as far as the Nation of Islam is concerned, it does not recommend any traditional pill or chemical method of control. Rhythm method is birth control.
For the woman.
There's more. For the woman, where the woman in her ovulation cycle consistently chooses the time when she is not ovulating. So the rhythm method, that's crazy. That's an old school method.
It is old school.
You mentioned Catholics. I remember Catholics meaning that. But I remember a tenet in the Nation of Islam, I don't know if it's still one of their things, that they, at some point in their history, they didn't believe in sex, but for procreation. That was their birth control. Their birth control was you didn't get intimate unless your intent was to bring a life into the world.
So if you were doing that, you were making a baby. Like you
That
did
was
it
your
with
intent.
purpose.
Yes.
So, so with that rhythm method, so I'm just, trying to think about that and that being their religion and their practice. I'm wondering, so would that woman then invite them at that particular time? So she would go to that man and say, hey.
Send smoke signals, text, something.
The red light.
So American women, do you women count?
No.
You ladies
They have
don't count?
apps on your phone now where you can just plug it in. But that's kind of what it is.
So you're still
it's,
counting.
it's kind of like the
Same
rhythm
system.
method. But like if a woman wants to, they can
I'm
log
on
everything
apps.
in there and it'll pop up and be like, bing, and then there's your rhythm.
Well, I'm gonna date myself, and
anything.
I'm not gonna say that I was ever part of this, but we,
Right.
in high school we didn't have apps. Your name was on the calendar. Y'all remember them little calendars? Your mama bought them at church. And gave you a calendar.
By
you
the brown
had-
paper bag
you
on the
had-
computer desk.
Rebecca on Wednesday.
No, it would be the young females would have the calendar, and for doing that
Counting
month,
and
I see
marking.
somebody.
Oh.
nodding
Somebody's
so they
like Joshua
understand.
on the 7th.
Yes,
We have. Oh, he is
nodding
not
saying that
talking
they
about
know
me.
about that calendar. So if your name was on that calendar
Okay.
in that target period, you might have been in trouble.
Right. Like I need to call Joshua and Vince, it looks like.
Oh, you knew about that calendar, huh, too?
No, that was your days, not mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna move on.
Interesting comment.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for that.
Very interesting. What's the next one we got?
Yeah, we're waiting for our next comment. All right. This is from a question that we have, or a comment that was given on our show last night. It says, what the heck? What is a wife then? One person in a marriage can make a decision without the other. I'm all for women's rights, but all for about women's rights, but let's talk about equal rights in this situation. It'll be wrong, in my opinion, but what would be a good reason or a reason for a wife to want an abortion? The question was about the husband's right in the abortion process. Now, in no state, in not one of the 50 states, does a husband have to be notified if his wife is having or has had an abortion.
Right. Well, with their question here, as far as what could be the reasons, there could be many. She could be having an affair. She can be unhappy. As far as good reasons, none of us would look at that as good reasons.
When you say she could be having an affair, you saying that the baby may not be his.
Right. There's like a
So-
whole list of reasons that people do have abortions, whether they're married or not. Sometimes you find out when you're carrying, you could be super far along and find out that you could bleed internally if you give birth to the baby. So then you have to make a choice. There are things that they could do now to go in and
I
find
think
out that
you're
there's
stretching,
something wrong
Jill,
with
but
your
I'm gonna let you
baby.
finish.
Look, he said
No,
he's
it's
stretching.
actually-
I think you're stretching.
But
No, it's actually when I was doing my research this morning, it's quite common when a doctor comes to a woman and says that if you do not terminate your pregnancy, you have an 85% chance of bleeding internally.
Right. No, that's not what I'm saying you're stretching at. The question is, why does a wife have the 100% decision to be able to say,
Oh no, I haven't got to that part
we're
yet.
gonna that was the question though, that we're gonna have this child. What are some good reasons? I can't find any other good reasons, because if it's a health issue, I think you and your husband are gonna sit down with the doctor and figure out what's the best recourse. But now, some reasons it's selfishness. Now think about it. What if we came up, like we were talking about a man that sued his ex-girlfriend, but we come up with a plan. We're not going to have children until this time. So your wife, your career taking off, you decide that you get your dream job, and earlier than the time frame that we're going to have children, you get pregnant. You decide, oh, I don't want to, risk losing this job. So you go have this abortion.
Like some celebrities. do.
Yes. And that's not fair to the husband that is sitting there planning to be a father, and you just decided no. So there got to be, in extreme cases, I believe there got to be some say or some equality that, especially in marriage, that the wife cannot 100% cross the board make that decision.
Well, I
without her
agree. There's a
husband.
lot of gray areas, but we also have no idea what's going on inside someone's home. She could be being abused. He could have raped her. Yes, husbands rape their
Jill and
wives.
Chase.
The list
Again,
goes on and
I
on and
think
on.
you
I feel that a woman should be able to go and have an abortion without the father of the baby's knowledge.
I didn't say the
Absolutely.
father.
No, I do not agree with that. I feel like if it is a husband or the father, I feel like it should be a decision made by both people. You can't even get out of a lease for an apartment without having, your boyfriend you've been with for 12 and a half hours sign off to take him off of the lease. But somebody can go and dispose of a baby regardless of reason without the husband's permission. So I'm on board with you with that. I can't think of any reason why anybody wouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good one, see, Stats, because she wasn't on that page last night. I'm calling her out. But yeah, what we got next? We can keep
Yeah,
it rolling.
yeah, let's
Another
go.
comment?
What happened to that class in high school when they made us carry around the doll with the sensor in it? That was birth control for me. I'm going to take this one because that baby was in my house last year. So it's still around. It is definitely still around. It was at Leo.
Yeah, Doc V, she said the same. I didn't have that doll. I had a bag of flour and an egg. It depended on what grade I was in.
Yeah, I
think,
didn't have the doll.
you had a
it's been
bag of
while
flour
for
or an
me.
egg, right?
So how does that program
Probably
work?
an
Because
egg.
I don't know anything.
You've never heard of that
I've
program?
never heard of it. How does it work?
I don't. I don't remember
So-
the particular classes, but for a week,
Like human development or something like
something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, but for a week, you're assigned a specimen as a child. But now they actually have.
It's not a specimen, it's a baby.
We had eggs. We had eggs. So that's
You
what I'm
carried
saying.
an egg around?
Yeah, we had eggs.
Oh,
and
this
bag
is
of
a whole
flour.
baby, like
What,
a
what
Yeah.
school
rock.
did you go to?
I went to Wayne.
that. Some people had
Was
eggs.
that a hood school?
Yeah.
Walking around with eggs.
Saying
Yeah,
an
but
egg.
we had
Some
eggs
people
and,
had eggs
and
to
bags
show
of
that
flour.
you had to be careful.
Hey,
and
Jill,
you-
you see how they do the black school? right here.
No,
They get
no.
eggs and flowers.
Yeah, but the,
specimens.
the purpose of the class is
Let's be real. Eggs and flowers.
eggs and
specimens.
flour. We were making cakes, but the purpose of the class is, and now they have sensors, and the baby it's called a
And
real
we
baby.
done went a long way in America, right?
Stop.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
Stop.
Stay with the show.
Yeah,
Stay
it's a real
Stay focused.
baby, and it has real sensors, and it has times, and it sends things off. The baby cries.
It cries for
it does
real.
whatever, and it
Yes.
really, and you have to stop it from crying and do different things.
So-
And the sensor actually tells you how long you held it. It's way
But sometimes
Your
you don't
egg had a
stop
sensor?
crying.
No, my egg did.
Your egg didn't have a sensor
No.
in it.
James
No.
Scott.
What about your flower, Doc V?
I
Did
didn't
your
have
flower have a
flour,
sensor?
but I do want to defend the egg.
Okay, let's go to Jill's baby because we talking about
Clarence
the baby.
dropped that egg as soon as they gave it to him.
It's
Oh my
supposed to
God.
teach you how to be careful and not to leave it alone. That's all. It's just supposed to teach
So
you.
did,
it
did
didn't
the flower
teach
do that,
I never
Did the
seen
flower help you?
Did the flower help me?
or the egg, the flower, whatever
Nah,
you had?
nah.
He didn't learn
We
anything
must
from
have
the egg.
another
Oh
comment.
my God.
I'm
Yeah, let's go to
sure.
the next one.
We
Let's see what we
must.
got. Is it,
Yeah, we-
that was our last one.
Okay.
That was it.
was
Yes,
that-
I believe that's where we
so
were.
we went out on a
Yeah.
event. Okay.
So we had a
gotcha.
good. All right, before we close out, here's where we are. Now, I know this is a touchy subject. I know this is a thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about. But our community is in a state of disarray for a lot of reasons. And I want to talk to some of our brothers real quick. This is me to you. We talked about the women and what they need to do to protect themselves about having children or not having children. But brothers, when we out here playing Johnny Appleseed,
Mm.
going from pillar to post,
Ooh, now how do they? do
trying to
that?
spread our plant in every field that we get in, and then we don't go
Wait,
back
so
and
you
check
start
on those.
talking to birds and the bees, and about the ostrich delivering babies?
No, I'm talking.
Okay, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about when we out here,
Johnny
every woman
Appleseed.
we encounter or every woman we date, we think that they have to have a baby by
Yep.
us.
Planting a seed
Planting
everywhere
seeds.
you
So
land.
you just forgot about STDs.
You forgot about STDs?
They don't exist for a minute,
You know,
right? In that
But what I'm
aspect.
saying is, if you can take care of them, have as many children as you want.
No,
But when you're just out here making babies,
that's not.
leaving babies alone, not being fathers, not helping the community grow, not helping the community build, then that's a problem. You have to have self-control of yourself too. We can't say, well, it's her problem. No, it's not. When you leave that child for the community to take care of, it becomes a community problem.
Can we
Correct.
just clear up something you
Yes.
just said? Because we don't want to be the people that tells the guy that has a good job and make a lot of money to have as many babies. as
I'm
he
just
wants
saying.
to. I'm just saying we don't want to say that.
Well-
we don't really mean that.
Well, the Duggars, what's that
We-
one family? 19 and counting,
I'm
20 and
just
counting. If you want to have 20 and counting,
by his wife.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm trying to help him with a few
Yeah.
morals.
Yeah, a few
here,
morals.
you
That's
know,
what I'm
coming
saying.
from the panel. Now, when you get outside in the back, you can say what you gonna say.
Definitely one point, man. But the other point is when you talk about abortion and you talk about the oppression of a culture's numbers growing forward in life, let me share something with you, man. The black culture at one point in America was the largest culture or population of people in America.
Mhm.
It's reality,
Right.
right? So now, if you were to look at it, man, we are only, they say 13 or 14%
Mhm.
of America. The Hispanics have come into America on American soil, and they outnumber us by nearly 20 million people. You can Google it.
Mhm.
Interracial.
It's reality. So
relations.
when you look at the systems that have been put in place, man, when you talk about abortion, when you talk about the prison system, when you talk about any systemic or systematic system, black people, we're dealing with things that we're not paying attention to. The reality is we as a people need to be more intentional.
Mhm.
I don't care how many kids you have, be responsible. I don't care how many you don't have, be responsible.
Mhm.
No judgment. But the reality is we need to take accountability for us as young men, women,
Yes.
and families, whatever they say that we're struggling with, man, squash that. We're bigger than that. We're better than that. That's why we're having this conversation,
Mhm.
to educate us so that we can understand. Everything that is happening in America to us as a black people is intentional.
Mhm.
There are no mistakes. These things have been put in place for a long time. There's systems that have been working for a long time. We can change our trajectory. That's all we're saying.
That's right.
We
That's
need
it.
to understand. That's all we're
Absolutely.
saying.
Absolutely.
See stats, close us out, baby.
Yes. We thank you again. Join us, excuse me, join us again Tuesday. We're going to come back and we're going to put you in the know Tuesday. Have a good weekend. We'll see you then.
Let's go get it.
High speed chase, 405 is the freeway. Slanging my, banging my, swinging my.